Josh Johnson, what's up, bro?
Welcome. How you doing?
Man, I'm good, dude. How are you?
I'm great.
Good holidays. Good end of the year.
Whew. Good year.
Yeah.
End is a little hairy, but
Yeah.
all good, man. All good. How about you? How you doing?
We're good, bro. It's been crazy. Been a crazy year. We're here now in this new studio, so that's exciting. We did that, it's something we added to the, new layout this year, so that's fun. And then, man, just the whole grind. That's about it.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, thanks.
Good.
So let's talk about you, man. So you guys, you manage a hardware store, essentially, a local. Yep. It's seeming like it's going to be a local franchise before too long, but
it's going, it's growing.
Yeah. And then also you have experience being a musician most of your life. So let's talk about all that, man. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
How'd you get into music? All
right. So I grew up in Mansfield, Louisiana.
Yeah. Okay.
And when I was in high school, first got started in high school, our family moved to Grand Cane. You familiar with Grand Cane?
Yeah, I know where it's at. It's just a little north of Mansfield, but there's nothing there.
Nope.
Yeah.
So we didn't have TV, we didn't have cable, we didn't have anything.
What year was this?
This was I don't know, man, maybe 95 or 96.
Didn't have TV.
Well, we didn't have,
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, we moved out to some land, and we were like kids that grew up in a subdivision that would ride bikes with their neighbors and all that, play ball with the neighbors. So we just moved out to the middle of nowhere, and we had nothing to do. We were out on land, and we're not, like out there with the cows or anything. So my dad always had a guitar laying around, and he's a decent player. He's okay. But he always had a guitar laying around, and so we had nothing to do. And I always liked music, and so I just started playing. I started playing guitar. My cousin Nacho, important to this story, had been playing guitar, and he was pretty good at it. So my brother at the time was probably he would have been 10, something like that. So we bought a drum kit and just said, look, you got to learn how to play this. So that was it, man. And it really just came down to we were these kids who lived out in the middle of nowhere. We had nothing else to do. And we loved music. So we got instruments and started teaching ourselves how to play it. And that's really all it was. It was on the weekends rather than go, hang out at Sonic or wherever all the other kids were hanging out. I don't know if you've done any of that.
Yeah, that's the country stuff, man.
That's right.
That's what it has to do.
That's it. So we would go out to Shiloh, Keachai.
I know where that's at.
Yeah. And we had a little metal building, like a little Jimco building or something. And so we'd go out there every weekend, and we would play. All we knew how to play would be like Green Day songs, or like we could play a couple of Rage songs.
Okay.
Everclear, like everybody would play like the same kind of songs, like that Better Nezra Good song that was so easy to play. So the easiest songs, we would just go out there and start playing those. And it was so much fun, man. I mean, we loved doing it. And eventually over time, we decided it's like, hey, let's start writing our own songs. And, Jordan's still very, very, very young.
What year is this?
This was just throughout that time.
Okay.
So I'd gone off to college.
Okay.
And I think for the beginning of the band, Tyler Reed, which, by the way, is if you talk about Nacho, myself, and Jordan, my brother, Tyler Reed is our other cousin.
Okay.
He's a little bit younger than Jordan, and he never played anything. He plays now, but we just liked him. We thought he was a cool kid, and so we named it in his honor. He wasn't in the band, but we were just going to call it Tyler Reed. So anyways, after I'd gone to college in Mississippi, and I came back getting married. This was 2002, so we're going to get married. Was working at the store, working at the family business.
Yeah.
And my wife and I decided that once we got married, we were going to go live in Nashville. And I was going to go, because I already had a business degree, but I wanted to do something in music. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was more production-based, like working with bands, trying to, help them. So we had made plans to move to Nashville as soon as we got married. Like we had a place set up to live. We were going to actually bring my little brother, who's a high school senior, we were going to let him live with us in Nashville, and possibly, go to. He was going to do the same thing I was going to do, except he wanted to be like a studio musician.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of crazy, but that's what we wanted to do. And so when I came home and I lived back here for a year, and I worked at I told you at the store, but I also worked at Dominic's Italian restaurant.
Nice.
Shout out to Dominic. An amazing time. So we were getting geared up to do that, and my brother had another band here in town called Agent Yellow. That was a local kind of Christian band. And, they had a nice little following, and they had gone to a studio here in town run by a guy named Rob Brazell. You ever heard of Rob Brazell?
Yeah.
Okay. So Rob Brazell had this studio here in town, and Agent Yellow went and recorded some songs with him. And I was like, that's cool. That sounds really good. I like that. And I was a songwriter, so I was really always interested in writing songs. And so I was like, what, before we go, I just want to go and record some of these songs that I'm writing. We don't really have a band per se, but I want to record these songs that I'm writing because I'd love to hear it that way, and maybe I'd learn something about production from Rob, So we go in to record these songs with Rob. It goes really well. We're having a great time. We get the copies back, and again, we're kind of queued up to move to Nashville. It's like right around the horizon. It's coming up, and I don't know how, I don't know why, but the songs that we recorded, they got put up on this like a tastemaker website.
Okay.
So it was called Kings of A&R. So I don't know. It's kind of it was an industry thing back then. It was kind of like if you were posted on this website, people took notice. They really got interested. Okay. So this is about 2002, 2003.
You don't know who put that up?
No clue.
Still don't.
I don't know how would they have found it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like how?
Because this is what you said, 02?
Yeah.
So 02, like it's not like there's not a lot of streaming options online or anything.
No.
It's like an audio file that gets up there somehow, but you're not able to distribute it much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and again, I don't even know how this person would have gotten it. We weren't really playing much. We just wanted to go and record these songs. So it got up on this website, and I'll never forget. I had a friend who was kind of like they call a fanager. He's kind of like
you
know what I mean,
buddy that believed in you,
right.
wasn't really paying him, couldn't pay him. Yeah, I guess.
Now he worked at the local community bank
in
Mansfield.
Okay,
and he was sort of our fanager, and I'll never forget. He calls me and he's like, Playboy, you're not going to believe this. He's like, I got 4 calls from major labels today. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to tell them? I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. He said, I got 4 major labels calling right now about the band. And I'm like, I don't really even have a band. So that was a really, really wild thing. And so I had to kind of come to my wife, which is a conversation that will live in our relationship forever, and tell her, about this going to Nashville thing. Here's what's happened, and I think we should try to be a band.
Yeah.
I think we should try to do this. I mean, look at what's happening. And she was pretty disappointed. Nashville, or you can live here in Shreveport.
Yeah, I can see where that.
Yeah.
I can see where that conversation
right.
goes.
She's not from here, but
right.
But she's come around. By the way, she's come around. So it was a really crazy kind of. It's seeming like a fluke thing that happened, and through that we were connected with a music attorney that probably at the time his biggest client was John Mayer.
Okay,
this guy from New York. He came down to see us play. We had started playing a few shows, and I had lots of people call, and I'd have to talk to them and just tell them, what was going on. We had a guy in Charleston, South Carolina, who wanted to manage the band, and his name was Johnny Diamond.
Okay,
Johnny Diamond, real name.
Okay, that sounds like I don't know.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, it sounds exactly what you think
yeah.
it does. And so Johnny. He was interested, and he's like, I'm going to bring down this attorney. We want to come see the band play. And I was like, all right, come on down, man. And so during that time, they came. We were playing more and more and more, and it's kind of like, in a small town, people were hearing about this stuff.
Yeah.
And so there was kind of energy around what we were doing. So people would kind of come to see us play, and more people were coming to see us play.
What year was this? By like 03?
Yeah. This is probably 03. And so we're playing a lot at Soundstage 516.
Nice. Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that
I
place.
remember that place. Yeah, man.
Yeah. That was a great all ages.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was down on 80 at
Yeah.
first, and then or was it downtown and then we moved to 80? I can't remember what happened.
Yeah. Back when we were doing it, it was downtown.
Downtown, and I think they moved it. I don't know.
Maybe,
but anyways, yeah, I remember.
Maybe. So we did a lot of shows there, and it was all ages. Like everything we did was all ages. We didn't really even play bars. We're not old enough. My brother wasn't old enough to play bars.
So at the time, how were you? You were back from college, so we were like early 20s?
Yeah, I was probably 22.
Okay, and he was 16?
Well, he's 5.5 years younger than me,
Okay,
so how old was that? Somewhere in that ballpark,
Yeah.
right? So he wasn't old enough. I think Alligator Joe's downtown one time we snuck him in to play. I don't know if you remember that.
No, I don't remember the place.
Right. So that was it. We were playing all ages shows. We had some interest. We had so Johnny came down. He brought the manager. We had my friend Jeb, who was playing with us at the time. And that, in my mind, it's crazy to think about because I thought about it in that moment. I was like, well, it's all like happening. It's like a light switch.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is, it's this long process, and that was probably something I could have done better with because I was thinking like, okay, there's just going to be this moment where it's just going to happen. And when Johnny came in, it was they were more about saying, okay, here's where you are, and we need to get you down the road.
Yeah.
We need you to, become a better live band. We need you to become better songwriters. We need to have better recorded material. A deal is certainly what we're all shooting for. We're all shooting for a record deal.
So these labels call you, but you don't sign right off. You immediately, what do you like? Hey, we need to talk to somebody about this first.
Right. So
and then I'm just trying to feel this out how this process works. So if they call you, and then you're like, okay, we need to reach out to someone to help us decide on what we should do.
Yeah. Well, I knew enough to know that you needed an attorney that specialized in that kind of stuff.
Right. So make sure you don't get screwed over.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so when you brought them in, he's like, now's not the time. We need to grow some legs first. Is that kind of how? Okay.
That's exactly
Gotcha.
right. So what Johnny essentially told the interested parties at the time was, and it was the right thing to do. He told him, he said, listen, we're not ready yet, and hang in there. Like, let's develop a relationship. Let's track the band together and see kind of where they end up, because we don't feel like they're ready yet, and that was the right thing to do. Again, for me, I was thinking it's like, oh man, it's go time. Let's do this. But that wasn't right, and so I give Johnny a lot of credit for doing that. And so from there, Johnny would get us on shows. So we would go tour the East Coast. We would go play like Charleston, Atlanta, Orlando. He would get us on music festivals. He would get us opening for some bigger bands.
Like who? Who's some of you open for?
So back then, super early on, the Florida Music Fest opened for Lit, which is one of the bigger ones.
Yeah.
And then he had some bands that he worked with. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting their name. It'll come to me later. But he had a band that was signing a deal with Universal. That was really, really, really good, really big in Charleston.
Yeah.
And so we ended up playing with them. This back then was still very, very early.
Right.
Like we really hadn't even kind of properly recorded in a big studio kind of thing. But we were playing shows, and we were playing in front of bigger crowds. We were learning, we were practicing a ton. We were writing and writing. And that was a big part of it, man. I mean, there's just it's so different today, but there's just no substitute for that time of struggle,
Yeah, because there's something, social media is still not existent yet.
No.
Right? YouTube, that was it, right? I believe YouTube, I don't even know what year it came out. Yeah, right. Yeah. No one's, you're not getting online, and there's no, you can't pop unless you put in the work. Like, it's not like, and then you got to be, imagine how many other people are grinding to do it. Yeah, you got to be lined up. So the fact that it's just amazing to me how that works, because the that whole industry has evolved so much because now all someone has to do is just see a video.
Right.
And then everything's kind of like it can be done like simultaneously, right? Whereas back then it was like, no, like you're walking through this whole process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I don't know. I think that there's a lot to be gained from that. I mean, I think there is a lot to be gained from what we went through because it made us, when you are broke as all get out and you're in a little tiny van, you got a little tiny trailer, and you're just going from little town to little town, and you're playing, and you're hoping that.
How much you making per show on these little shows?
God, man, back then it was nothing. I mean,
like
nothing.
A couple $100.
You would hope.
Yeah, you would hope a couple $100. Yeah. And then there was just three of you.
No, it was because we brought another guitar player on, and it was a guy named Michael Benner was with us for a little while, and then we got Brent Skinner, who became one of our, I guess what you'd say, core members. He played with a band in Ruston called Rivers, Indiana. He was in. They were great. I mean, they were an incredible band, and so he joined to play guitar, and eventually the other guitar player for that band, Rivers, Indiana, which we played a lot around here, Chris McPeters, he joined, and so that's our. They're part of the core membership. There's like 5 of us.
Okay, got you.
Core.
So 5 of you traveling in a little van.
Yeah.
Making these little shows. Okay.
Yeah, and so to the point of Nacho. Back to Nacho. We're in Pensacola, Florida, right? And we're this terrible show. There's nobody there. I mean, it's like
what venue was it? Like
this would have been like a vegan coffee house or
what?
something. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, just it's that kind of stuff. Like you
yeah.
ended up playing like house shows.
Yeah.
We would play like mobile home parks. I mean, there
just
was
whatever
no,
you could get.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. You were just doing whatever.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's no other way to get your name out there.
Right.
I mean, so yeah.
That's it. So, I remember we were sleeping in the van, and he couldn't sleep in the little van that we had, so he had his bass cab like laid flat in the trailer. So he's like, forget this, man. And he leaves the van and he goes out and he just sleeps on his bass cab in the trailer.
Yeah.
And he wakes up the next day and he just says, I'm going home. I just can't do it anymore. And we were like, all right. I mean, that was tough for me and Jordan because, he had kind of gotten us into music.
Yeah.
And but he just had learned that he just didn't want to do it. He's like, this is too much. I'll go home and I'll work. I'll make some money, and I want to get married and do all that. And
yeah.
So then we brought on when he left, we brought on Chris Rimmer, who is married to Ansley Rimmer. And
okay, gotcha.
So there's a ton of intersection
right.
with all these stories. And then Chris Rimmer became our bass player, and so he's what I would call one of the 5 sort of core members of the band. But man, that was a lot of struggle, a lot of struggle. And and Johnny, who has passed on, which I mean, God bless that dude. He really opened some doors for us. But as time went on, we started to feel like we weren't getting where we wanted to go.
Yeah.
And this is probably, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years after.
This guy, I have to ask about him. So he was just one of those old school music guys. Is that what he was? He's like older.
What's really crazy? So the first time we ever met Johnny, and all I had done is talk to him on the phone.
Right.
And he definitely had that like classic music industry guy, like gift of gab.
Yeah.
He could just talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Rick Beato on YouTube. He's this big music guy. He and Rick were really tight back then.
Okay.
And so Rick Beato did a really great video about Johnny. So if anybody's interested, it's really worth watching. The first time we ever met Johnny, my mom came with us to Atlanta. We were going to play in Atlanta. And, because again, she's got a kid in high school.
Right,
she's let me tell you, so when I was a senior in high school at my prom, I had to be home at 11 o'clock.
Oh, so that's just okay. So them letting you even tour is something that's interesting. Yeah.
Well, now I'm back from college.
Right. But your brother being able to go with you.
Right. He's in high school and he's touring the East Coast.
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, talk about kind of letting loose a little bit. But anyway, so we go to meet Johnny, and he's staying at his aunt's house in Atlanta, and my mom's there. And we roll up, and it's like midnight. And we walk up the stairs, and there's this literal kid sitting on the steps, and he's holding a handle of Jack Daniels. and this is his little brother, whose name's Jason, who we ended up calling Donnie. So we ended up calling him Donnie Diamond. So this 14-year-old Donnie Diamond is sitting on the porch, like holding this Jack Daniels. And my mom walks up and she sees him and she's like, "What are you doing out here?" You know, and he's just like, "Waiting on you guys, man, waiting on you guys to get here." And so Johnny, come to find out, is like my age. So he's very young.
Okay, gotcha.
But again, man, he was really, really loved in the industry. He had a lot of fans that were into what he was doing. Like if he was interested in the band, people were interested in the band.
Okay, gotcha.
So he kind of had this gift.
That name it sounds like an old school. Like when you
know
hear
it.
it, you're like, it sounds like an old
I know
school
it.
like music, manager or yeah. Anyways,
I know, man. So I'd like to take a brief tangent to tell a story that I've never really told.
Okay, cool.
A little bit before this, I'm working at the store in Mansfield, right? So Ivey Lumber in Mansfield, and I work in the cash register. We just took those recordings from Rob Brazell, and we printed them and made a little CD out of it. Okay. So I'm selling them at the counter.
Nice.
I'm selling them at the counter and at the Wagabag next door.
Yeah.
So this guy rolls in, and in Mansfield, you kind of know everybody, right? Mm-hmm. So this guy rolls in, and he's got he's like tatted up, and he's wearing this like velvet shirt, and I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm just curious." I'm like, what you doing, man? He goes, "Oh, well, I'm not from here. I'm from New Orleans." I'm like, "All right, cool." I'm like, we're talking, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I'm in the music industry." I'm like, "Really?" Like. He goes, "Yeah, my name is Flood. I'm a record producer." And so there's probably one person in Mansfield, Louisiana who would know who Flood is.
Yeah.
And that's me.
Yeah.
Flood is one of my all-time favorite record producers. He's done some of my favorite records ever. And my mouth just hit the floor, right? And so he was pulling around to get some lumber or whatever. And I run because it hits me. And I just run to the back and I grab my CD, and I'm like, "Hey, man, listen, I know, I'm not trying to bother you.
I know everybody does this, yeah.
I'm not trying to bother you, but here's our CD," and I gave it to him, and gave him my phone number, and so, anyways, he calls me later, like I'm living in Shreveport, driving to Mansfield to work. And he calls me, he's like, "Hey, man, I'm listening to this CD, and I can hear some potential here. And, I'd be interested in maybe trying to help you guys out." And I was just like, "This is incredible. This is wild."
And at what time was that? That was after...
That was a little bit before the Johnny...
Gotcha.
Everything kind of hit.
Okay.
But in Mansfield, Louisiana, this guy rolls up. And
what was he doing there anyways? Like, what was he...
I don't know. He bought lumber.
Randomly bought lumber. Okay.
Yeah. So... we start to have conversations. Like he starts calling me, and we'll talk music. We'll talk music for hours. We just keep talking and talking and talking and talking. And he's just like, "Look, I'll tell you what we're going to do, man." He goes, "I'm going to get you out here in L.A. and we're going to track. And, I'm going to get you like this sandwich spread with 16 grain bread." And he goes, "I'm going to have my buddy Slash come in and play on this for you." And I was like,
"Okay.
All right." Remember this dude that I met at the lumberyard in Mansfield, Louisiana. So as the conversations progress, they kind of start to take a weird turn. Like he starts to ask some questions that are pretty inappropriate.
Okay.
Involving, like me and my wife and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so we are basically getting ready to fly out to Los Angeles to meet this guy, right? And I don't know, man. Something just comes over me. I'm like, something's just not right about it. Because we talk about all kinds of stuff. But,
right.
I kind of hear these questions. I'm just sort of like, man, that's a little strange.
Yeah.
So we're getting ready to go, man. We're getting ready to go to L.A. He's like, "Look, all I want you to do is buy the tape. You buy the tape, I'll make it all happen. Slash will be here. The Deadly Tray will be here." And so I started doing some research. Because I'm like, I don't know if I can. I gotta figure out what's going on.
Okay.
So, long story short, Flood's British. All right?
Yeah.
This guy not British.
Oh, so it wasn't even him. It wasn't even him. He was trying to scam you.
The whole time.
Holy shit.
The whole time. This guy was running this elaborate scam.
Well, what was his end game, though?
No clue. We were going to go to L.A.
Yeah, but, like, when he gets you there, like...
Kill us?
Yeah.
Take us out?
Rob
Who knows?
you? Like, I mean, but still, that's crazy. So, like,
it was
all this time into that...
the most insane thing. And even to use the name Flood, like how that connection there. And he was, I think he was a guy that was loosely involved in the music industry in New Orleans.
Well, he had to have enough knowledge to talk to you about all those things. So,
and that's exactly right. Like, I would ask questions about the records that I loved, and he would answer the questions credibly. Like, with answers you'd be like, oh, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, And so he had us totally, I mean, we took his credit card number and tried to track him back that way. We called, like, local law enforcement. Like, we tried everything to figure out who this guy was. But, yeah, at the end of the day, fake Flood. And like I said, who knows? That dude might have taken us all out and killed us out and left us out in the desert.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, sorry, that's a tangent, but I thought that was worth.
No, that's crazy.
Worth.
That's crazy. That's interesting too, because I I'm just interested to know, like, what the game was. Like, that's what's blowing my mind.
Yeah. So, anyways, we get back to that. We're in the Johnny phases. We're cutting our teeth. We go and make a little recording. We make another little recording with a guy named Eric Bass, who is now the bass player for Shinedown. This was he had been in bands, and he was kind of converting over to production.
Got you.
And so we did some recordings here, did some recordings there. We're feeling good about it. We're starting to shop it. Okay, so it's been some pretty good amount of time has passed since then, but we were playing a ton. We were building our following. MySpace was coming on, so we were kind of getting we were getting MySpace famous, and as we put it out there was a few labels that were kind of interested in the recording, but we ended up signing with a label called Immortal Records, who was based out of California. They had a pretty good run in the late 90s with bands like Incubus and Korn. I forget some of the others,
okay.
but they had done really well. They had their owner had sold the label, but he had just sort of bought it back. So his plan was, he said, well, I'm going to get a bunch of baby bands, so kind of what they call young bands, and we're just going to try to do the same thing, see if I can make it happen again. So we signed with Immortal, which was a huge deal for us, because it's like at that time, in Shreveport. I know there's certainly been bands after that, but there wasn't a lot of bands that had signed deals from Shreveport, at least that we knew of.
Right.
And that's not taking anything away from, our like heroes here, American Tragedy.
Yeah.
Who, they were one of the first bands to sort of take us out of town. We played a lot with them. We played a lot with Built for Speed here locally. Great guys that really took care of us and, kind of showed us how to get out of town and do that. But so we were super proud of that, because think about Grand Canyon. It's like there's nothing.
Yeah, that's literally just pasture, man. Like
a
little strip of stores. That's it. Like a little downtown, half downtown, one street.
Yeah. So we were really proud of that. That was a proud day for us. Signed to the label, and we began work on the record. So we talked to a few different producers, and we really hit off with this guy named Elvis Basquiat. So Elvis, just to give you his background, the first record he ever did was Incubus' Make Yourself.
Okay.
Like out of nothing. That was like his first like real record that he made. And so we liked that record a lot, and some of the other things that he had been involved in. He was in with Chevelle and that kind of stuff. And so we decided to work with him, and we went out to. He had a studio that was on the beach in Virginia, and so we spent a month out there, and it was one of the greatest times of our lives. It's like you got a beach, you got this house,
yeah,
you're making this record. You got no responsibilities. It was just one of the greatest times, man. So we took the month, put the record down.
What year was this?
This was 2006.
Oh, 6, okay.
Yeah, so you can see how much time is
passed,
so
I mean, you took a while to grow your brand.
Yeah.
At that point, you didn't have really any other way to do it but to get out there and move the music around.
Yeah.
What was the, not to cut you off, but I want to ask you this before I forget. So what was the song that, like, kind of popped, put you guys on the map that everybody liked? You know,
are you saying before the record? Or
No, yeah, before the record. Like, before you signed the deal.
Yeah.
Like, when people started hearing your music, like, what was that song that just really stuck in everyone's head?
Well, before we did the actual record,
Right.
we had that kind of split recordings, two different. Where I told you we had Eric Bass recorded, and then
Right.
Ed Rose did the other 5, and it was kind of an EP that we would sell or give away. And there was a song called New Year on there that was, even now because it gets on Christmas playlists, so it starts to bubble our streams up. But New Year was far and away our biggest song.
Okay, gotcha.
So that that was a strength on there that. Some albums, I mean, some of the labels were, they were kind of listening to that EP because that was their idea of like, okay, where's this band going?
Right.
And hear the EP,
Gotcha.
so that's what they were hearing off of that EP. But so back to getting the label, getting the record in the can, getting it back to the label, and then they started pushing us out with what I would call in that moment like the genre appropriate tours.
Gotcha.
So that's when we're touring with bands like June, Showbread, Pillar. We got into this kind of a Christian tour run somehow.
Gotcha.
Disprovidence, Fueled by Ramen bands, some other smaller bands at other smaller labels. But that, June was like a Victory band, I think. So we got into a lot of sort of kind of scene tours there. A band called Classic Crime that was on Tooth and Nail. We always had really good connections with Tooth and Nail bands. That's kind of that Christian.
Right.
But we didn't want to really go there.
You're not a Christian band.
Correct.
Right. Gotcha.
Correct. So, but we always had really good relationships with Tooth and Nail, with a lot of Tooth and Nail bands. So we'd end up playing with a lot of them. So that time, you're playing for like 200, 300 kids, we're across the country. You got a booking agent that's come on board now, so he's helping with that. And that's when, you got the album ready, you're feeling good. It's like the tours are picking up. We upgraded. We got a nicer van, we got a nicer trailer.
You got some money?
Well, no money.
No money.
But at that point, like things are picking up, and
Yeah.
you're like, hey man, this is going. This is going somewhere. And record comes out in April. I want to say 2007, maybe. And at that point, everybody's is feeling really good. The tours are going exactly the way that they're supposed to be going, picking up. And fast forward just a little bit to October, and the owner of the label, this guy named Happy Walters, says, I'm shutting the label down.
Damn.
And he was also a sports agent, so he had this sports agency going, which made him a whole lot more money.
Right. Yeah.
From a business standpoint, I
Right.
totally get it.
Right.
You got this thing that's not making any money, and you got this thing's
It's a passion project over here, and taken away from the moneymaker.
Yeah. So our album came out in April, and we had, at that time, the way it would work, and maybe it still does to a degree, is that you would really want to sign to an indie label first.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, the indie labels, sometimes they were owned by the majors, and it was just kind of a front, because it was like you have more street cred if you come out on the indie label first, and then you upstream to the big boys. Well, when our record was ready for launch, we had, at least one that was very serious about going ahead and like putting us through, like locking it up. And the label owner, whatever, it didn't work. Like either he wanted too much money or they couldn't see eye to eye on it, and we were just kind of like, it was out of our hands, right?
Yeah.
But we were just like, man, that would have been huge for us, like to have Columbia being a part of our team,
right.
kind of standing back and watching. But from a resource standpoint, to have a major in your corner, like saying, hey, when the next record comes out, it's going to be out on the big boy.
Right.
And so it was kind of a bum that didn't work out. And then he closed the label. And so in music, it's you're kind of become bad money to a degree if you've already got something out and it's not going anywhere. So you don't throw good money at bad money, but we really ran out of, because the indie label's job is to really like make you the boots on the ground soldiers. Like keep you in the van, give you a little tour support, just keep you running, keep you on these tours, and that's really the natural progression, the way it should have gone.
Right, and build up enough clout and popularity to grow to the bigger. Yeah, makes sense. So y'all just jumped right into a bigger pool, I guess, and didn't have any.
Well, and again, they couldn't make that deal work out.
Right.
So it was just Immortal, and then Immortal closed.
Gotcha.
And so that really, from us with the album coming out in April, they closed in October. That's not really a great place to be. Now, we had a saving grace in that we had some fans that were sort of parallel with this team that was helping us, and they were trying to help us. So they, there was a big music management firm in New York called McGathy Indigoot, and they're an old like throwback like 70s rock radio kind of thing. And the guy who ran it was this guy named Bill McGathy. And he was probably the only person I was like afraid of in the music industry. I was like afraid of this guy. Still am to this day. So if he hears this, like, I don't know what I would do if he shows up. But anyway, so he, our producer Elvis, says, look, you need to help these kids. They're great. They got it going. Their label just shut down. What can you do? And so he was a big rock radio producer. So he was associated with like Shinedown and Chevelle, Puddle of Mud.
Gotcha.
I mean, tons of those bands in that world. So
those are really like booming at that time. Those are really, really, really popular and just growing. They're not even at their peak yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's like loosely associated with Nickelback and Theory of a Dead Man, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But very different than the world that we have come out of, right? So very different audiences.
Yeah.
You're talking about a huge age difference. I mean, we were on these all ages tours, sometimes Christian tours, and then it's like this group of bands was just a whole different thing.
Yeah.
So they see us play and they pick us up. They're like, look, your label's shutting down. It's all good. We're gonna kind of pick these things up and we're gonna see where we can go. And I'm like, you know what? At this point, what do we have to lose?
Yeah.
Everything that we were working on is just falling apart. So we start to get on some pretty big tours, like those bands that I mentioned. A couple dates with Shinedown, and we were just, looking around at how big these crowds were.
You're there opening for them.
We're opening. Yeah.
That's insane, man.
I know it. And massive, massive crowds, and we're playing, and we are loving life.
Yeah.
Like this is, I still have the image of we would be outside these venues and there would be tour bus,
band. No, that's awesome, man.
Tiny little van.
Well, it's awesome just to put that in perspective, because like people don't realize, like, first of all, you bust your ass the whole time, and there's really no help. You really are just putting in the road time, right? You have to put in the road time. You just have to. It's like at that day and age now, it's not there, but you have to put in the road time. You get synced up. You run into all these walls, and then you finally break through. And then so like, what's it? How is that crowd? Okay, so you're playing for all ages crowds, Christian crowds. They're chill, having a good time, but they're not like shit-faced drunk and partying, right?
Exactly right.
I'm sure it's a huge environment, and
That's
there's a shock factor there, and then also like, how does your music align with like opening for a band like that? Is it like, does the crowd come out and say, okay, we're ready to hear Shinedown, hear your stuff? Or like, oh, it's something a little different, but it's cool, and it leads into that. What's that feel like?
That is a great question.
Yeah, because that's immediately what I think about,
Yeah.
Because you see these bands come out of nowhere, and you've never heard of them, and then they take off, but they have to tour with someone like that before they really get the, momentum.
Yeah. So one of the big differences between the all-ages tours that we were on and what we really grew up on is that, when you're young, you're much more sort of open-minded to new stuff. And so when you're young and you see like 5 bands are playing the show and they're paying for like $3 cover or something to get in the door or whatever, and like they're all kind of like-minded, and they maybe sound way different, but they're all kind of like-minded culturally.
Yeah.
You know, like we would play shows like in Bastrop or whatever, and it'd be like a hardcore band, you know, like heavy stuff. There would be super pop stuff. There'd be a piano band playing. It's like all this wide variety on this show. You know, but the kids, we all kind of came from this scene kind of thing where it was like, this is cool. You know, we all like similar kind of music. There could be very different bands playing, and you know, you get it, you know. But the crowds that we ended up playing for, to your point, number one, alcohol is a huge factor.
Right.
And then secondly, what's happening there is that because these people are older, you know, they are, music is serving a much different function in their life.
Yeah.
You know, it's not this connective thing to make friends and do this stuff with. It's like, I'm an adult, my job sucks.
Yes, an outlet.
And I'm here to just let some stress off.
Yeah.
And however that takes shape. And so when you're the opener for those shows, you are just in their way, you know.
Yeah, that was my question. You know, like not to put anything against what you guys are doing, but like I see that sometimes, right? But then, like when you go to a show, you're like, I'll wait. I'll show up late because I know the opener's going to play, you know, kind of thing.
Yep.
But a lot of times they're really good. They just don't have any. They haven't had any time to, you know, blossom yet.
Sure.
You know, or just
sure
you haven't heard them yet. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and that really, really is challenging because I'm not going to say that the crowds are hostile because they're not, and it really depended on the band. Like
Right.
Chevelle was a lot harder than Puddle of Mud.
Right. Really?
Oh yeah.
Really?
100%. Yes. But to open for those big crowds with those bands, we had to become like we were already road dogs, so we were already tough. I mean, we already could go into a bar and play originals and loosely keep a bar crowd going.
Yeah.
Like we could already do that.
Right.
We were already like strong enough to kind of hold a bar crowd who didn't know us. And that's
something to be said there, because most of the
Yeah.
time, like just to put in perspective, even if you go to Nashville, like you go into every single bar, they're playing covers, right?
Exactly.
You're not want to hear an
Exactly.
original.
That's
you
right.
know, so like to have enough clout and have enough, you know, skill and talent to keep a crowd there. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's saying something.
Yeah, and that's a skill you really got to work on.
Yeah.
And that really comes down to like your writing and your performance and how you structure things and how you put stuff together. But we had to learn all that. But we were already like tough in that way. But once we got onto that new stage, that new playing field, we had to take it up even another notch, because it's like, look, we know that we're in your way right now, but we are coming to smash your face in.
Yeah.
Like, and then the five of us just became, you just felt like this, like almost like football team or whatever. And like you would hit the stage and you'd be like, we're going to crush these people. Every one of them. We're going to crush every single person. If you don't like us, we don't care.
Yeah.
No, we don't care. Like, we are coming to smash your face in. And so that mentality of having to do that night after night after night after night, with people who, again, like not really hostile, but just maybe indifferent.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing. You know, that's the thing you don't. I'd rather you hate us than be indifferent.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Because indifference just means they're not going to ever open their mind up to anything
Right.
you're doing. Yeah.
Right. So, so that process was really, really important, but it did make us, again, you know, who we were, and that we honestly, like stylistically, like if you listen to our music, you don't hear Puddle of Mud and you don't hear Chevelle, but, you know, we would, on those tours, there would be other openers. And so we would be, you know, usually at the front.
Okay.
And then the other bands would be stylistically much more in alignment with those bands. So they were really, they made sense. You know, for us, we were kind of a little bit all over the place.
Yeah.
But we would, you know, we would watch. And so they would sell maybe 25 CDs. We'd sell 100, you know, because it wasn't so much about stylistically, it was about that live. We just felt like we were badass dudes, you know. And
Okay.
so, and we learned like a couple tricks. So we saw some bands that were really grinders and kind of tried to emulate what they were doing. And so one of the best tricks was right after you play, you know, you got 3,000 people out there.
Yeah.
So right after you play, we had backpacks. And we only traveled with one other person. So we didn't have a crew, we didn't have anything. So some of the guys would start packing gear up, and like 2 or 3 of us would put on backpacks, and we would jump into the crowd, and start pulling CDs out, and just start and we would sell them like crazy, and that was just part of that.
That's the perfect time to catch them, literally right then,
because they couldn't believe it.
Direct to market.
Yeah, they couldn't believe that the band that was standing up there is like now like straight out walking through the crowd selling people stuff. They couldn't believe that. And and again, as people are so drunk at the end of the night, they're like, "Hey man, is that name of Puddle of Mud song or whatever. Is that song on there?" And we'd be like, "Oh yeah, track 3. Here you go."
So are you singing and playing guitar? What is your okay? So you're doing both.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
I kind of half and halved it,
right?
With that, but yeah.
That's awesome. I think it's awesome. So where do you go from there? So you're doing all that. You're touring with them. I guess are you getting some record sales at that point? I mean, is it being distributed still?
It's.
Are you having to still just like sling CDs?
No, we're slinging CDs like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, under the release, I remember it was sold at the Best Buy here in Shreveport. Like we were just like, we walked into Best Buy. I was like, man, there's a record here in Shreveport. It's incredible, Some Walmarts and some of the other record chains would carry it. But again, that label's gone, so there's no distribution for it. So it's basically like we gotta get another deal going. And then, but the McGathy, the big New York guy, he just wanted to keep us out with those big bands, and they had a first right of refusal with Roadrunner Records. And again, stylistically, just not where we were. I mean, that was Nickelback at the time, right?
Gotcha.
Like Megadeth was on there, and some other really, really big radio rock bands. And the kind of culmination of all of it really was we had a showcase in. They brought us up to New York City, so we flew up to New York City and played, I think at the Mercury Lounge or the Mercy Lounge or something like that. And it was to play for Roadrunner, so the entire staff came up. And big time A&R guys were there, and
What was your feeling at that point? Was that like, this is going to be make or break us right here?
I felt that way.
Yeah, because as I'm just trying to sink into this, I feel like that's where were your nerves racked? How did you perform? How did they go?
So it was not. We didn't have any of our stuff. We didn't. We didn't have our crowd, and that's the thing about showcases, because we had done 5 or 6 showcases, and you're never playing in front of your people.
Right. So you don't have that enthusiastically
exactly
like connection there.
Exactly. And that's one of the hardest things about showcases, is that a lot of times they're in a dry room. And for us, we really, really fed off. Like, we would play Rabs here, 400, 500 people.
I remember that place, man. That place, gosh.
That was one of our favorite places to play.
Yeah, that was a party, man. It was a great time.
We were like, if you could come see us at Rabs, if you could come get it like in our spot doing what we do. But it was like, no, come to New York and play in front of like 15 people.
Right.
Something like that. So it was a tough room. It was a tough show. It's on. I think the show's on YouTube. If anybody wants to watch it, you can see like different songs that are cut out of it. I think we did okay, but at the end of the day, I think the label made the right call, and they said, I don't think this is for us. And knowing because I'm in business. So
what year was that?
This was the end of 2008.
Okay, so you did that for. Okay, got you. So you've been on tour for a while.
Yeah, we had been doing the big band tour for
a year and a half.
Yeah.
And so, 2008, and then are you still touring after this, or what happens?
So, after that show, because it was like we had to get another deal.
Yeah.
Because we don't have another deal. There's no point in what we're doing. So, the label kind of comes out and says, "Look, guys are great, but we don't think this is for us." And that was where all their eggs were in that basket. With that, it was their first right of refusal. That was what fed their rock radio promotion. So they had a promotions company that ran. They basically would pitch those bands out to the radio stations, 99X kind of stuff. And two, to be honest, like that genre at that time wasn't exactly thriving. Like at the backside of 2008 and 2009, that's when a lot of like those rock radio stations started closing down. Clear Channel it was kind of that thing.
Yeah, kind of just, I don't know, it just went out with a bang. It's pretty crazy how that happened.
It did. And then what we missed during that process was sort of how streaming. We live right now in the streaming era.
Right. Streaming was taking off then. That was going to be my other question. Let's go back real quick before we get into that. So you got to explain the mad hustle of slinging CDs because people do not understand it now, especially anyone under the age of probably 30, right? Or they're late 20s,
right?
You had to go purchase even before pirating started, right? I mean, all of us would steal music. I mean, come on, let's be honest, right?
I did,
but even still, like it was still getting played, right? Mm-hmm. So it had to get to a CD for someone to hear it, and getting those like. I think it's so cool you're still. I mean, some people, we got merch. Check us out after you get done. But no one's buying fucking CDs anymore, man. They're just not. You can buy some T-shirts or something, I guess, if you really like someone. But like getting out there and selling those things is literally your ride or die.
Well, to your point, when we asked our label for tour support, they gave us a box of CDs.
There's your support right there.
They're like, sell them,
gas money.
We would, when we first started playing, we would burn CDs, like with 3 songs on them, and we would just give them out to people.
Right.
And, just a totally different era, but I appreciate it. I love albums.
Yeah.
I love listening to trying to understand how the band or artist wanted you to hear it, from top to bottom. And now you lose a lot of that, with the streaming. But even the streaming infrastructure hadn't even come on.
No, you had an iPod at that time. That was about it.
That's right. So it had gone from like CD sales, and then it had totally bottomed out because there was the pirating and all that. And that's kind of this time frame.
So you're right in where you can't really sell CDs. You don't have a label pushing your CDs past whatever was produced initially.
Right. And then the what really works today, so the like 360 deals that have all the streaming and all the social media stuff and all that hadn't even
nothing's come out yet.
Hadn't happened. So we were kind of in the valley of
trying to figure out how to market yourself when the industry's changing entirely of how it markets itself. Makes sense.
No doubt. So that's where we were. And man, I mean, look, I take a lot of I talked about this with the guys. I take a lot of ownership over our, I'm not going to call it failures, but like how we didn't exactly go where we wanted to go, just because I felt like there was a lot of decisions to be made along the way, and did I make the right decision, the right people to trust, the right people to talk to, so I take a lot of like ownership of it, but ultimately it was just a really tough time. It was a tough time for anybody kind of in that period where it hadn't been figured out. It's like if like it'd been 10 years ago, it'd been a total different thing. Would probably been an MTV thing.
Right.
It would have been a kind of that. And if it had been 10 years later or 5 years later, then it would have been we're going to put all our resources into building your social media, and like we're going to, you can see bands doing it now, and you go, wow, man, look at these guys taking off. But there's so many people behind them that are helping them. Kind of further that. So back to the show in New York, just didn't work out the way we wanted it to, and at that point we all kind of felt, I was married before I was in the band.
Okay.
So
gotcha. So you're doing that too. You're trying to be married and be on tour. Yeah.
So and that was really challenging. I think in the first 60 months, if I get this right, 60 months of our marriage, we were together for 20 of those 60 months. I might have those numbers wrong, but it was something crazy like that. Dang, we were gone all the time.
Yeah.
And so that was really, really difficult, and that was serious friction at that time. And I got a degree, I got a business degree, and you see yourself doing these great tours, this big time stuff, and you come home and you're like passing out the money, and it's like a minimum wage job.
Yeah.
Not even that, right? Because I'm working 24 hours a day. Now, don't get me wrong, incredible perks,
right?
But it just felt like at the time that some doors were closing, and I felt like personally I needed to try to kind of turn the page and look for something that would be a little bit more stable, and that's when we we kind of moved back home, got back into the family business, and this was 2011. And as you know, we've worked together on some things.
Yeah.
You know,
well, what's the family support like? So I know they were probably a little bit like, did your parents want you to get into the family business, or were they apprehensive that you guys wanted to chase that dream? What was that like? That kind of something that I think about.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, you know, my parents are very conservative, very religious, incredible people. I'm very grateful for them. And I would say they looked at it two different ways. So my mom was very supportive. She really believed in us. She thought we could really, you know, do some great things. I think my dad shared that, but he was afraid. He was afraid of what happened to us. Rightly so, by the way, right? Because, I mean, it's a wild world.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think all along he did want us to be back in the business, working in the business. But, you know, again, I think it'd be kind of a split decision to that point. But, I mean, it's wild when your sons are out there so young and we're all over we played just about in every state. We went to Canada in February.
Oof.
So you can imagine
sub-zero temperatures.
These dudes from Louisiana making the mountain pass from Vancouver to Edmonton. And that's a hairy road.
Yeah.
I mean, just driving through the snow, through the ice. I mean, we did all of that. We played Maine. I mean, we played everywhere, man. Everywhere.
What's your favorite place to play? Like hands down.
Just as far as a cool venue, or
no, just like
all things considered.
All things considered, based on everywhere you've been, all the people you played with.
Yeah. So I'll if I can, I'll separate. I mean, because we've done a lot of the House of Blueses and Hard Rocks and all that kind of stuff. Kane's Ballroom in is it Tulsa, Oklahoma? That's the coolest venue in America.
Okay.
At least, I mean, maybe outside of what's the one in Nashville, the Ryman. We didn't play the Ryman, but Kane's, and I've seen so many other musicians say Kane's, and dude, Kane's is phenomenal. It's such a cool place.
Yeah.
But here, you know, again, Rabs and Rustin was just that was so much fun.
That place, man, when it was popping, it was, man, every weekend.
Yeah.
Every weekend someone was playing there. From like bands like what you guys had all the way to like Gary Allen. When that dude would come there, oh my God, man. I remember that's like the only place he would come around here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it would go until like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
It's just insane, man.
Yeah.
It's insane. So that's sort of where, you know, we had to kind of go and get.
So you kind of just hung it up right there and just said, we're putting a pause on this, or were you planning on ending it there? What was the plan?
You know, I thought that it was basically over in that capacity.
Right.
You know, to try to do it with that much commitment, I felt like it was probably done. You know, and that was tough. It was tough too, because I mean, we worked really, really hard. You know, I mean, that's what a lot of people miss in something like that, is that I remember reading the magazine articles like Dime Bag, something way back when I was a kid or whatever, and it was like, hey, what would you tell somebody that wants to be a famous musician? And I think his first words were something like, don't.
Yeah.
Don't try.
Yeah.
Because, and then he said, okay, now that I've said that, let's get real. Like, if you really want to do this, it's going to take an enormous amount of work.
Know that you're going to quit every day.
Yeah.
Something in your head is going to tell you that, at least, you know.
Yeah, you're going to get out there, like, you drive from Salt Lake City to Denver or wherever it was, and there's like 2 people there.
Yeah.
And one's the bartender and one's the guy at the door. And you just drove, how many hours is that? To play for no one.
Yeah.
And you're just thinking, I don't know if this is it. But then conversely, you got nights where, you know, you're in front of 4,000 people at Club La Vila, and you tell everybody to get up and jump, and you see this sea of people jumping up and down, and you're like,
what's that do to your headspace?
Honestly,
yeah, like real talk.
So honestly, that kind of power, there's no drug or sexual experience that even comes close.
Yeah.
Nothing. I mean, there's nothing like that.
Well, what does it do to your headspace to be from to do that and then go back to a bar with empty people? Like, it's got to fuck with you, right? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I mean, I can only imagine the experience, but then also like that much stimulation to none.
Yeah,
and there's no in between, right?
Right. Yeah. No, it's it really. I think I would just kind of go back to my example in that. That's what messes with you. What messes with you is even getting to feel that experience messes with you, because where do you go from there?
Yeah,
where do you go when you like tell somebody, you tell this group of people to do something, like raise your hand or whatever it is, and just feeling that power is just, there's just nothing even close. So yeah, to your point of going to play the empty bar afterwards, it's like, what am I doing?
Yeah. No, but I mean, I can only imagine like standing up and just just the nerve wracking of making sure everything's perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't understand, like, too, is you're going to make mistakes on stage, and a lot of times people won't even catch it because they're just drunk and having a good time. They're so consumed with you being there, that they aren't paying attention to if this is off tune or something you are.
And the bigger the shows are, the more that gets clouded.
Yeah. Because
the sound systems get so big and so this wall of sound kind of protects. You will hear more. It's harder to play a small room than it is to play one of those big places.
Yeah.
Because the sound system, it's way more intimate when people are just like there with you and can see you. But when you're just looking out to this mass of people, you don't really connect with anybody. And the sound, like when you hit the kick drum, it's just like,
yeah.
And that's what it sounds like, right? So if you hit that wrong note, that kick drum's still going,
yeah.
And I think it's way easier to play at those shows.
Okay.
You certainly don't have to connect with anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, you connect with this big mass, but it's not like you're trying to, when I'm playing and it's small, like I'm kind of noticing people, and I kind of like to get this circle of energy going, where it's like I'm getting it from you, it's coming back to me, and I'm getting it back to you, and we kind of got this thing going. But if if I can see that you're not in it,
yeah,
I start like, why is that person not? What's going on? What do I need to do? What do I need to? And I'm not thinking about this like it's kind of like this sort of in real time thing where you're just noticing so many things, so many faces, and you're trying to like get everybody. Mm-hmm. You're just trying to like work this energy. It's probably like somebody's doing a fitness thing where you're trying to get everybody in the room to like, hit those reps or whatever.
That makes sense.
But yeah.
Well, that did y'all ever play at Warehouse? That used to be a big venue around here. Yeah. That used to be like a huge venue for rock too.
Yeah, we did. We did.
That was like the last standing pillar of anywhere you could listen to rock locally for a while. You know what I mean?
Right.
Up until like probably, man, I would say the last year I went there was like 15, 16 maybe, and then it's kind of blemished after that.
Yeah. We probably played there, I don't know, 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
It was a nice venue here in town for that kind of thing. I mean, usually the sound was good, and I liked how they had the setup in there.
Yeah, with off the stage in the corner, and then immediately a bar up front and a bar back there. Yeah, it was a nice setup with the second story and stuff.
We did. Was it called? What was the one close to Centenary?
Man,
it's on the same side of the road as Centenary.
Dude, I can't remember. Someone's going to hear this and know that.
No. Like all of those venues at that time we had played.
Yeah.
I mean, we played, oh gosh, man, all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, just because that's what you did,
Yeah.
And now, I see a lot of bands nowadays, they'll do a lot of restaurants, and they'll do a lot of like breweries and stuff.
Did you ever? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say we never did that.
Yeah,
we never do that.
Right. So you're not. Yeah, right. You're not playing. You're playing live band shows. You're not playing any. Why was that? You were like, that's not what we're chasing. We don't want to get stuck in a rut. What was the?
It wasn't really that. I think that number one, there wasn't as many of those opportunities. There weren't as many restaurants that had
live music. Yeah.
And a lot of restaurants, if they're doing it, the way I imagine it's kind of like Two Johns, where there's got a piano, and it's like singing covers or something like that. And I think that we never got into anything that required a lot of covers.
Right.
We never really played covers. So if we were going to play, it's going to be our stuff. And we made the real cover. We played the casino a few times, which was hilarious. But it's the same thing. We don't play covers. That's not what we do. And we want the people that will come. Hopefully they like our music, and that's what we do.
Did you ever go play Nashville?
Yeah, we played Nashville quite a bit.
What was it like whenever you went and played there? Like you were about to move there, and then you're going back playing. Like, was that ever a thought? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
here's what I'll say.
Could have been here doing something else, but I'm here doing this now.
Right.
Kind of thing.
I never looked at it like it was, it was a triumph or anything.
Yeah.
One of the things about the shows in cities like that, particularly Nashville, particularly Los Angeles, New York City, markets like that, even shows with big bands aren't very good or weren't very good.
Yeah.
Because those markets are spoiled.
Oh, dude, so yeah, they have every single night someone's playing in every single bar. Like to imagine, like just the one time I've been there, I was just like, man, like just like every single room you walk into, it's really good talent.
Everywhere.
But you're not appreciating it because it's in every single fucking room you walk into, right?
Right.
Like so when we went, I took my wife there last year for her birthday, and I'd never been either. We went and we were walking down. I'm just like country. I'm cool with that, but I was like, then we heard someone playing a rock cover, and it was a female vocalist, and it was a full rock band. I was like, oh shit, let's go in here. So we went in there, and then they were announcing they were playing at another bar the next night, so we ended up catching them with that. So it was pretty cool. Like that was cool. Like we've become a little groupie for 2 days, because we just didn't want to hear the same covers in every single, like if they're not. I don't know. I'm that way where I'd rather hear your original stuff and then determine if I like you or not, instead of you trying to capture my attention or entertainment for an hour while I'm in this bar with a cover, Brooks and Dunn cover song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't appreciate it, and I think that's what happens. So I could see where that happens.
Yeah, and I mean Nashville, because I lived in after the band shut down. We actually did. My wife and I did move to Nashville for a year.
Okay.
So we did get to do that, and then we went to move to Charleston for a year, and I went to live and hang out with kind of closer to Johnny and Eric to a degree out there. But living in Nashville, and my goal was to get into songwriting because man, I love songwriting. If you said, hey, you got the day off today, what would you do? I'd go write songs. That's what I would do. And so I still love to work on songwriting. And so that was my hope. But what you understand in Nashville, and they say it's a 10-year town, is because that's about the amount of time it would take you to get anywhere.
Yeah. And
at that point, I was like, look,
you've already put in 10.
I've already put in 10 years.
I don't want to put in another 10.
I don't want to put in another 10 years just to kind of get to
a different set. That's a whole different world. Like it's going from I did this, now I got to it makes sense.
But the talent in Nashville, the restaurant that I worked at, I mean, people who were waiting tables with me, just insane.
All musicians.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah,
everybody, and everybody's a songwriter. Everybody's a musician. And somebody asked me here about moving to Nashville one time because I had done it. I was like, man, listen, it's going to mean more to be who you are here than it would be there. Yeah. Like, Nashville don't need you, man.
No, there's plenty of people there like you already, right?
Like, do your thing here.
Yeah.
And I believe that because I believe I think we can get great stuff going here. We got great stuff going here.
Yeah, I mean, everyone always, and I've been guilty of this too. Everyone always says, well, this place sucks, nothing's going on. It's because you're not helping create opportunities for anything to go on, right? It's not because this place may suck, but it sucks because they're running off to do something somewhere else when there's always a space to do something, no matter where you're at in the United States and the world. If you get enough people together doing good shit, there's going to be opportunity.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, but sometimes people just can't seem to realize that,
No, I think you're 100% right. And I know that you're somebody who fights for that.
Yeah, I try to, man. It's like, and these guys, we're here on, in the East Bank District. These guys, what they're doing down here, I mean, just the same thing. They're bringing live music back, and every weekend we're having a huge entertainment venue back here, right? That's exciting. That wasn't even thought of a year and a half ago. It wasn't even existent. Like, where the hell was there an outdoor venue where you could, put on a show all day long if you want, or all night long with multiple acts with huge production. You know, it just wasn't, unless you went to one event center, that's it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or a small venue in a casino that doesn't hold enough people, you know?
Right.
So I think we've been faced with that, you know, with that challenge too. Creatively wise, like people not wanting to put a lot of time into be, you know, local because there's just not, the scene's not here, right?
Yeah.
It makes sense. Where it was 50 years ago, it was huge here.
Yeah.
Or 70 years ago.
And it's changed a lot. I mean, even music has changed a lot. I mean, I was really, it's funny in high school, like I would ask people like, you know, what's your favorite kind of music? What kind of music do you like listen to? And you would hear, you know, I like country and I like rap. And, you know, but and I was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, you know, that's not really the things I'm into. I love rock music and that kind of thing. But what's happened is that those, to a degree, like those two markets are really dominant.
They're huge, and they cross over so much now.
That's right.
They used to not, right? It's like, because you thought about this, like I would listen to a little bit of country, a lot of rap, and I listened to I went on a really, like, a good 10 years of just rock, and I loved it. But then it just faded away. Yeah. Like, it's just like the genre just disappeared. And then all you hear now is like the radio rock, which is like for instance, like I would listen to like Korn, Slipknot, and that's not even the hardest of hard, but you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. Crossfade, I would go into like that, Incubus, stuff like what you guys were playing. And then I would go all the way over to like Avenged Sevenfold, like all that stuff. I loved it. And then what was the one? Five Finger Death Punch, stuff like that. And then they slowly just started fading away from their sound, like to kind of appease that market. And then it just all kind of just disappeared. Yeah. Like I don't hear any rock coming out anymore. And if you do, it's like the same shit retold almost, or repurposed. It doesn't feel the same. When those people were dropping albums, it felt like it was like their sound, but it was a new version of their sound, right? Like I remember Avenged Sevenfold, I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. Like I love their stuff. And they would drop these, you know, I can't remember the name of the album, but it was the one with the huge busy artwork on the front of it. And they did the second album. Anyways, I would, like you said, I was in love with listening to the entire progression of the album, how the music evolved. And then I just kind of lost, they got too big. I don't know what happened. They just kind of lost the artistic experience. And I sound like one of those music hippies right now, but but I was infatuated with that sound. I really was.
Look, I could go on a big tangent on this, and I won't. I won't, because look, as an observer and somebody who's sort of in the biz, you know, one thing that's really happened, I think, that's understated in this whole process about how, you know, when you talk about rap or possibly pop, and you talk about country and their market dominance, I think that there's a political element to it.
I'm sure I feel like there's a political element to anything that has that much stay power.
Well, but to go a little bit deeper on that, so, you know, rock used to be sort of in the 60s and 70s considered very progressive. Yeah. Like very sort of left-leaning. Yeah. And what's happened today is that because we're so politicized with everything that happens, music and a lot of art has become kind of a stand-in or an avatar for certain political tribes.
Yeah, makes sense.
So you've got the countryside, which is market dominant, which, you know, we would understand to lean right. And then you've got sort of the pop rap element, which we would understand to lean left. There's certainly crossover, and that's just a big blanket that I'm throwing over it. Right. But I don't think that, like, when we were out on tour, the rock bands that were out there, you know, they were very much like, we support the police, we support the first responders. Like, it was almost like the rock bands had gone conservative to a degree.
Yeah, it is funny because, I mean, it makes sense. Like, I feel like they're in a middle lane. I think they always have been, right? Because it's like, it's like Rage Against the Machine, like fight the man, fight the power, you know, hell no. But at the same time, you know, riding that middle lane. And I think most rock was that. I feel like, because there's I just don't see one that leans too far right or too far left. You know, not in that element, you know, in my opinion.
Well, you would hope that what rock, you know, would come to represent would be kind of a feeling of independence, right?
Yeah,
of like
exactly. That's what you feel.
You know, we're not beholden to anybody.
Exactly. So that's I guess where I'm saying in the lane in the middle, like they're not really picking sides. Yeah, because it is more of a, this is us, this is our sound, this is who we are. Yeah. Either get with it or fuck you. Right. That's rock.
Yeah. Yeah. Like rock. You're not supposed to be owned. You're not supposed to be controlled. Yeah. You know,
whether it's punk rock or hard rock, that's rock.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So, you know, maybe because of the kind of the narratives through media don't allow or won't amplify.
Won't support that, yeah.
Right, you know what I mean?
Support that. I mean, it makes sense, but I feel like it was diminishing before all the separation started happening here recently.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
I just don't know what happened. I don't know if, people got a new feel of something, but it seems to be just like fashion and styles, like sound is starting to be repurposed. It always has, right?
Yeah.
But it's starting to be distributed as, a different, whether it be a different form or different, different outlet or whatever. But like, for instance, I really like, this is not even rock, this is country, but I don't listen to country anymore. But I grew up listening to a lot of old country with my parents and my grandparents. And I enjoyed listening to it.
Of course.
And I enjoyed like the George Jones and the Conway Twitty, and all that stuff, and the Loretta Lynn. I enjoyed listening to that.
Yeah.
I don't really listen to it anymore. But then this fella comes along called, his name's Charlie Crockett. And he's very interesting because he's putting that sound back into motion, and he's also dressing like they used to. It's like, holy shit, this dude is like, he's bringing it back,
Yeah.
So my hopes that all that to be being said, my hopes are that it happens for rock soon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think what I'm seeing a lot of now is I do see a lot of kids engaging in what we would call guitar-based music, I guess is the way to put it. And I'm seeing them younger now, but I see a lot of girls doing it.
What's crazy is, and the girl rock band, that thing was that was hot for a while too. You're like Evanescence and who's In This Moment. I always loved them too, man. If you ever listen to Maria Brink, dude, check them out. In This Moment. I remember we've never really had, up until probably when after you guys quit pretty much playing around here, like there was a rock scene up until to the early mid 2000s, and it kind of faded here.
Yeah.
But I remember being hardcore in rock, and it was probably between 2007 and 2012. And I remember I heard they were playing, and I guess they just stopped along the way to play at Margaritaville at the time. Yeah, it was Margaritaville. Yeah, they stopped along the way to play that venue, and I got there, and there wasn't that many people there, which is amazing because you got to see this hard rock band that's lead singer, a woman, they're fucking getting down, dude.
Yeah.
So I was so excited to be able to see something like that here locally because you never got to. But that's something, but I think the talent of these kids, dude,
it's amazing.
Like it's the access to information, right? You're able to access things, teach yourself, like you learn how to play guitar, you were self-taught. I mean, I'm sure you were like me. I was looking up, I don't even know, you were earlier on than me, but I was looking up tabs, trying to buy tab books and then learn how to play, that's the old school shit,
That's
man.
right.
Like these kids now, like just YouTube it and like, here, place your finger here, here's the chord, you know what I mean? Like, no, dude.
Yeah.
I remember buying what was the brand with the chord chart? Was it First Act? From Walmart, like everybody had the chord. You know what I'm talking about? Everyone had the chord chart that they put on their wall, and it showed you all the chords, dude. I had one.
How to play them?
And I had one, man. And then we'd look up tabs and learn how to play songs. And I never was really great at guitar. I like to sing a little bit, but like, no one understands that struggle now. It was just a little harder. Now the access, not saying these kids are not talented, because they are extremely talented, but the access to information to all these styles, and these kids like just shredding on these guitars. I'm like, dude, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I could never play like that because I never put the time into it, but two, like, just, man, it's crazy.
Well, and you do see that a lot of music and music genre now, because of the way streaming operates, people can just pick from it like a buffet.
Yeah.
It's not like when you were growing up or I was growing up, it was kind of like part of your identity. Where you were like,
really
I'm like this guy who likes this kind of music. And that's kind of like who I am.
And here's another thing. I brought up this a long time ago on a podcast. I haven't even thought about it lately. But you remember when you were self-conscious about letting certain people listen to what you listened to because it was part of your identity.
Yep, that's right.
What you just said literally made it quick because, like, I went on this tangent one day about talking, like, if you really want to share who you are, share your playlist with someone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Share your entire playlist, like your whole Spotify account. Let them see everything that makes you who you are by listening to.
Yeah.
And so much as it's probably not as much of an identifier now as it used to be because you can pick, you can cherry pick from everything.
Right. I mean, you have these kids that you'll see them as like they're wearing Nirvana shirts or Jimi Hendrix shirts or Led Zeppelin or whatever, and then they're also listening to like Childish Gambino or it's just they can just go across so much music and so quickly,
right?
Because you don't have to commit to the album purchase,
yeah.
You know, because like you buy an album, it's like, oh man, I invested money in this thing, man.
Yeah, $20,
I'm going to make
$20.
this work.
Yeah, dude, I remember when Three Doors Down came out, and I bought their CD. This is way early on, and I took a different path on listening to music and rock. But when their album came out, I played it so many times that I remember going to my mom or my grandmother or someone. I was like, I think we need to take this CD back because I think it's messed up. Because not that it was scratched, but I thought the song was playing slower than it was when I initially started, because I'd listened to it so many times. Like, this shit's crazy. But we took the CD back. I just mentally was convinced, I guess, that I listened to it so many times that I messed it up somehow.
You know, I wish that band could hear that story.
I know, right?
Know that you loved them so much that you literally ruined a CD.
It was that Kryptonite album too. Like, God, it's so horrible. I don't even listen to it now. But you know, like that song that everyone knew. Yeah. But when it came out, I was probably 10 or 11 or something. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, so what now, man? So what are the plans now, dude? So what are y'all doing? Are y'all still playing? You got plans? What's the deal?
Well, so we 10 years after that record came out, which was called Only Rock and Roll Can Save Us Now, we put it out through Immortal, and then the band kind of shut down. And so 10 years after that record came out, we played a show here in town. It was great, man. People came out. We had a great time, and so we started, to kind of kick around, doing something else, doing another record, more recordings, that kind of thing. And we'd done a few of them. So when the pandemic hit, we had booked some time back with that producer. We were like, hey man, we're going to come and record some songs. He's like, this is awesome. Bring it on. Because it was a special time for him too. Now I think the guy sold like 100 million records, so he's done some crazy stuff. But he just done Wolfgang. He's working on Wolfgang's record now, Van Halen. So that's one of his things he's working on. But anyways, so we went in, we recorded 4 songs, and then a year and a half or so later, we went back and recorded 4 more. And now on January 1st of 2023, we are going to put that out. So as another record. And dude, it was so you hear from the story, but it was so much fun to get to be together, to get to work in that context, with Elvis, the producer, who we love. Dearly love this guy, and to get to go back into that world for a minute. And I was thinking about it today, and I was like, I wanted to speak the language again. It really is. We have a shared language of jokes, of memories, because think about that time on the road and how crazy that was.
Yeah, and how connected you become, because you're one unit, man.
Yes.
One of you's out of place, it's not going to be the same.
That's right. So to get to go back into that world, spend a little time, create, work on music together the way that we used to. And we used to work so hard at it. So to get to do that, and again, to just put the record out, it's like, I don't care anything about like what happens with the record, because in my mind, it's like, we're already successful because we got to do it again.
Yeah.
We got at this stage in our lives, there's so many kids, there's wives, there's all this stuff, all these responsibilities, jobs. But to get to just be in that world again was a blast, man. It was a blast. So we're gonna get a new record called Cave Paintings, and it'll be out January 1st, 2023.
Awesome.
Maybe we'll play a show. We'll see.
Oh, man. Come on now.
Yeah.
Come on
yeah.
now.
We're working on it.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, so that's it, man. We're really excited, really thrilled to have some more music out there, because too, we also felt like, we had more to say.
Yeah.
We just didn't get the chance to say, everything that we wanted to say.
Well, you know what I've noticed talking to you, and I've met a lot of people throughout the years of course, being in the rock industry, like as far as like people I know that had bands or in bands and being out listening all the time. I definitely wasn't in a band or anything, but like consuming it, being around it, you're not, you're very humble. Like, because most people are like, if they got to that door and they're knocking on it, but they never were able to get through, they're always so bitter. Like have we didn't make it because of this and because of that and because of this. But you just, I mean, walking me through all that, you're like, I think we made the right decision. You know, they made the right decision. It's not like you're mad at the label or the people. They gave you an opportunity. You appreciated it for keeping you on and letting you tour with those people. And you're not bad-mouthing them because they didn't sign you.
Right.
They didn't see how great you were. You know, but in talking to most people, that's what you get back. You're like, fuck them. They didn't sign me. I did everything for them. And I went on that tour and didn't make no money. You know, like it's just, I like your attitude about it. You know, no matter what you guys do moving forward, you're still putting stuff out there, and you know you have a good mentality over it. I feel like.
Really, I appreciate you saying that.
I mean, I'm just being honest, man. I feel like anyone else that listens to this whole thing, they're going to pick up on that too. But I really sincerely feel that, you know.
Mm-hmm. Part of it comes down to number one, being from such a small place, right? That's part of it. Nothing was owed to us, you know. We tried to make it happen. We worked really hard at it. There's also an element for me too about, you know, just kind of personally, spiritually, like, you know, with what I do with the work at the store, Ivey's, I feel I take a lot of, I feel like that's kind of my mission. That's like what I feel like I'm really connected with my mission, like, spiritually. I think that I'm doing the right thing. And I feel like that maybe, even though I loved that, I mean, maybe too much, you know, that musical world, I loved it. And there's a chance that I may not have been the same person today. There's a chance that if I would have stayed with that, I might not have the same wife. I may not have the same daughter. Those chances are pretty high, right?
Yeah.
So the idea that my life has worked out the way it has, I'm really grateful for what I have. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful that I do have a job that gives me purpose, that I feel like I can do good work. And again, not knowing who that person would have been coming out of that, because, you know, as we didn't really get into, but there's high highs and there's really low lows.
Yeah.
And you get into some very self-destructive behavior. I was involved in quite a bit, you know, and so there's no guarantee that at the end of that, I think maybe God has got me to this place and maybe took that for good reason, if that makes sense. So I try to live with that framework. Now, not to say that I don't have regrets about, could I have done this better?
Right, of course, we all have those, right? You think about, I should have done this way, so that way would have put us in a different position, you know, but overall, you're not bitter about it, doesn't seem.
No. And if there's any kind of bitterness, it's about not being able to create like that as much as I'd like to.
Right.
You know, but you know, that's just part of it. That's part of life. But man, I am, dude. I'm so grateful for the life I have and the family that's around me and our business and dude, working with you and the Hardware Festival that we're going to try to put on.
Man, we got
number
that coming
2
up in May.
Number 2 this year. So that kind of stuff I think is worth. It's so valuable and it means so much to me that, I mean, look, everybody would love to do that, but I don't know that fame is really good for most people.
No one should have that much attention on them at any given time, ever. There's no way you're going to come out of it normal. I don't care who you are. Like I had this conversation with someone else previously on the show. I don't even know which one it was, but just we're not meant to have that many people around us.
Right.
You know, that's why we have different cultures all over the world, because as they're separated, they're different. Yeah. You know, and that's what's so unique about them. And then when you put that one thing in front of every single one, you're going to get negative. You're going to get positive. You're going to get overwhelming. Like, we're just not meant for that. You know, I just don't think so as a species we're meant for that.
No,
you know?
No way, man. And
I don't think it's over. I mean, I'm sure it's an amazing experience, but I don't think long term it just can't be good for you mentally, right?
I don't think so. I think you lose touch with reality.
Yeah, of course.
You know, like when you have what they call FU money and literally no one can tell you no. Yeah. That's not how normal people live.
No. No, it's like, and then you're just chasing that experience, I guess, the whole time, or trying to keep it at least level. Like, can you imagine like trying to keep your day to day from being mundane by just filling up? You know, it seems like a lot.
No way, man. So but I appreciate you, because that's really. I really do.
Yeah, man. Well, look, dude, I've had a good time today. I didn't know any of this about you, so I'm excited, and I'm glad we linked up and talked about this stuff. And so, Tyler Reed, new album, drops January 1, 2023, and we should have this show out by then. If not, we'll be bumping the door on it. But either way, man, I had a great time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, DJ. Great, man.
All right, man.